Hello, my name is Hannah. I am the sales manager for Graypants. I hope everyone is staying healthy during this time. To get a little bit creative about our marketing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the presentation that I would normally offer when going on sales calls. You're welcome to share this video with any of your customers, and hopefully you find it really helpful. So let's get started. So Graypants was founded about 12 years ago. We get a lot of questions about where our name comes from. Seth and John, who are the two co-founders of Graypants, they met studying architecture together at Kent State in Ohio. They actually got paired up on a project that was a big portion of their grade, so they decided they wanted to look a little bit nice for the occasion. And they accidentally showed up to the presentation wearing the identical pair of gray pants. So that is where the story comes from. And then however many years later, when it was time to name the company, typically design firms will be named after the last names of the two co-founders. Seth and John's last names are Grizzle and Junker, which are not the cutest names in the whole world. So we're glad that they went with Graypants instead. So we are a lighting manufacturer, but we are a little unusual because we do dabble in small architectural projects from time to time. And then we also have a pretty robust custom shop as well. So under the umbrella of lighting product, we do both standard product, custom product, and then occasionally we will take on some small architectural projects as well. But the cornerstone item of the Graypants line is the scrap lights. The scrap light series is all made from recycled corrugated cardboard. It's all made from post-consumer recycled material. The scrap lights themselves are cut into rings or pieces stacked on top of each other, hand glued, sprayed with a product called No Burn, and shipped out our back door. All of the scrap light products that we make are made in the US by hand by a human in our studio, and they are far and away the most popular item on the Graypants line. The scrap lights range in size and scale quite a bit. The smallest scrap light is about 8 inches in diameter. The largest is about 86, so we play with scale quite a bit. Everything that you're seeing in front of you here is part of what we call the Classic series. That's kind of our fancy way of saying that it is a single socket fixture. So when you order something from the Classic series, barring you don't include any custom canopies, you will be getting a shade, a cord set, and a small 5-inch canopy to cover that connection from cord to ceiling. Within the Classic series, you'll notice that with each shape, you're going to have a couple of different varieties on the size. So in front of you here is what we have is called the Aussie. It's kind of a lantern shape. With the Aussie, you have an 8-inch, a 14-inch, an 8-inch, 12-inch, and 14 inches in size. The drops, you have a drop 18 and 26. Let's see here. Oh, I was thinking about it. There we go. With the discs, you have a disc 16, 20, and 24. So a lot of times how we see these installed, we see scrap lights used in clusters. So if we're able to offer a couple different size options per shape, those clusters look really nice. We've also added a couple of organic shapes to the line as well. What you see in front of you here is what we call the hive. We wanted to add something that had a little bit of a sort of naturally occurring feel to it, a little bit of asymmetry compared to our other fixtures, which are all very symmetrical. So you have the hive here, and then you also have the nest, which is that more elongated version. So in addition to the Classic series, which was that single socket fixture, we also produce what we call the Frame series, which is, you guessed it, something that includes a frame. So with the Frame series, you're bumping up in terms of complexity of the fixture, price point, and components. So in this photo, you can see a side-by-side. You have a disc 24 and a drum 24. Same diameter, but you can just see the difference in complexity between the two fixtures. With the Frame series, you're starting at about 8 inches in diameter, and you can go all the way up to 86. So the Frame series is really where we start to play with scale more and more. This is the drum 48 that you see here. Another drum, and then the Ohio 32 on the left-hand side of the screen. Dome 36. And then the Sun series is where we really start to bump up in terms of complexity and size. So what you have here in the bottom right-hand corner is the Sun 32. On the left, you have the Sun 48, and then in the middle there is the Arcturus. That fixture measures 64 inches in diameter, so that is the second largest fixture that we produce. And you'll notice that our friend up in the corner is showing you a little bit of scale in terms of a human next to these fixtures, so she's there for scale. And with these fixtures, you're starting to include more sockets as well. So with the little Sun 48, you have 4 sockets. For the Sun 32, you have 4 sockets. For the Sun 48, you have 7 sockets. And for the Arcturus there in the middle, you have 9. Currently, the way that we are producing these is we have a down rod that runs the body of the shade and screw-in base sockets that spiral outwards to ensure that you're lighting the shade evenly. However, we are moving towards integrated LEDs. We've just hired a new product development manager, and one of the first items on his list is working on an integrated LED for all of our scrap lights. So that is currently in the works. It is being prototyped. It is not yet available, but we just want folks to know that that's where we're headed, and we are actively working on it. Another photo just for scale. This is the Arcturus. This one is 64 inches in diameter, and someone leaning into the shade to give you an idea of scale. And something else that I do want to point out too, with the Classic series, what you have is a series of complete rings that are stacked and glued on top of each other. With the Frame series, you're getting into these huge fixtures. Our laser cutters simply are not big enough to cut one complete ring and stack them on top of each other. So we have to cut pieces that come together to form a complete ring. So with these larger fixtures, you're noticing that the way that the light shines through the corrugation is giving you a little bit more of a stack sort of textured pattern, and that's because you're seeing those pieces come together to form the ring. Just something to note when you're looking at the differences between the Classic and the Frame series. And then the white scrap light. So everything that's available in the natural is also available in the white. Again, all post-consumer recycled material. It's the same material. The finish is just white. We get that white color because the paper material itself is bleached, so that's how we get the white. Personally, I'm a little bit partial to the white. I think it's really fresh and really lovely. I don't know that looking at this you would necessarily guess that it is cardboard, but it is. So kind of a modern take on that cardboard material. Sun 32 here in the white cardboard, a little Drum 18. And here you can just see the difference between the two finishes. We have the white and the natural next to each other. This is a photo from a trade show. So the way that we cut this material, for the natural scrap lights, we use our laser cutter, which means there's a little bit of a burn effect on the edge. And with the white lights, we use a CNC or knife cutter. So there's no burn effect on the white lights. However, sometimes we do get a request for a cross between these two finishes. So if you were to take the white scrap light material, but you laser cut it, you would get this kind of sandy blonde color that's somewhere in between the two finishes. I refer to this as our secret menu item. If you know to ask for it, we can do it. And it's just a nice alternative. If someone doesn't fully love the white or the natural, you can offer the blonde as a third option. And sometimes it's just, it's the perfect finish. So something to keep in your back pocket, something to keep in mind. And when I give this presentation, I get questions about this photo versus this photo. This is actually the same installation. The difference between these two is that this photo, which is taken sort of from a bird's eye view down, you're getting more of the surface area of the white cardboard when you look at it from the top down. So these look like two different finishes, but they're actually not. It's the same installation. This photo is just taken from the side. This one's taken from the top. So I'd say that pendant that's up in the right-hand corner is probably the closest in this photo that represents the finish, and then you can see it from the side angle as well, just so there's no surprises. We have other installation photos of the Blonde Moons available on our website as well. That's under our projects tab. So if you need a little bit more context, that's on the website as well. So canopies. So up until this point, we have been providing, with all of our scrap light material, we have been providing individual canopies per fixture. We still can do that. It's something we do all the time, but we also want to be able to offer canopy options as well. So we have a 3-foot round metal canopy or a 2x4 foot metal canopy that we can offer. You can do these clusters that you see in front of you here. We have a lot of clusters that we recommend. The hope is that folks will browse through the lookbook and just point to something and say, oh, that looks good, I'll just take that one. If someone doesn't do that, we can of course work with you to design something, but the point of the predetermined clusters is that we've already done some of that design work for you, and we hope that it can just be a cut and paste into your job. We're flexible as well if that is not the case. So again, that's a 3-foot round canopy and a 2 by 4 foot rectangular canopy, both metal material, and the finishes are white or black. Canopies will also come into play when we talk about custom as well. And then the Pebble series, so this is the newest addition to the Scraplight line specifically. The Pebbles are kind of a nod to Seattle as our home base. What we've done is gone around to various beaches in Seattle and collected a pebble. That pebble has then served as the cast for the shape of the shade, and the name of the beach and its geographic location are inscribed on the bottom of each shade. So a nice little nod to Seattle. And the pebbles themselves are a little funky in shape, which is appropriate because Seattle's a little funky, but just a nice little representation of who we are. This was a pebble project that was recently installed at a school in Seattle. Not only was this just a great project for us to complete, but this is a good representation of somebody opting not to use those canopies I just touched on recently. This installation opted to use all individual canopies for their space. So you can see those little 5-inch individual canopies really well in this photo, so worth pointing out. If they wanted to do a, let's say they had done a series of 2x4s tiled together to do instead of individual canopies for this installation, that certainly would have been an option as well. And then our Corona series. So we're still under the umbrella of standard products, so that includes our scrap lights, and now we're headed into Corona. The Corona series was somewhat inspired by that solar eclipse we had a couple years back. Depending on where you are in the country, I don't know, who was in the path of totality and who was not, but that served as our inspiration for this fixture. So what you have here are 2 brass plates that are sandwiched together. There is an LED plate in the middle, and then an acrylic diffuser that runs the edge. The size options for the Corona are 6-inch, 10-inch, and 17-inch, and they can hang both horizontally and vertically when installed. The finish options currently are the brushed brass. We can also do a stainless steel. Down the road, we have talked about doing a matte black finish and then potentially a mirrored finish as well. So we're just kind of getting started with the Corona. A couple of different fixture types that will be added to the Corona line. We will be adding a Corona table lamp. That will be in the 10-inch size. You can see that there on the right-hand side. And then we will also be adding a Corona sconce, also in the 10-inch size. The Corona sconce will be ADA compliant. And you really won't be able to see the attachment of the Corona to the wall unless you really put your eye flush with the wall. And if you do see it, the canopy itself is the same material as the Corona, so it all looks like one large brass piece. There's no sort of, ugly canopy on the back that would ruin it aesthetically. It's all brass, which is a nice touch. And then the Kerf series. The Kerf series will likely also get a little bit of a glow up, if you will, later this year. But for now, we are working with our Kerf series. And the main material here is laser cut plywood that we hand paint. At one point, we were making the Kerf series out of cardboard, and we decided we wanted to opt for something that felt a little bit sturdier. So the wood option has really worked for us really well. The panels themselves are cut and they're flexible, which means they actually pop on and off the frame of the Kerf quite easily, which means they are reversible. So if you wanted to do a custom color, or if you wanted to use our lava natural finish, which I'll show you in a second, you could decide if you wanted that to go on the inside or the outside, because these pop on and off the frame so easily. So you see those little metal pegs out. Yeah, that panel just sort of stretches and pops onto the frame really easily. So this is our whitewash finish that you see in front of you here. We also do a lava natural finish, which is that image you see on the right. It's the bright orange on one side, natural color of the wood on the other. And then we also do what we call the espresso finish, which is a nice, deep, rich brown. Let's see, my computer's not cooperating. Uh-oh. Come on. There we go. Oop. Let's go back. There. Oh, God. Oh, all right. Oh, Lord. All right. So this is that espresso finish that I was talking about, that nice, deep, rich brown color. Within the Kerf series, we have a couple of different options. We have a drum pendant, a couple of single socket pendants, 2 table lamps, and then in the middle at the bottom there, that is our Kerf sconce in espresso. We get some questions about the diffusers. So for the scrap light series that we've already talked about, the frame series in under the scrap light line, those use a glass diffuser. The diffuser used in the Kerf light fixtures is actually acrylic. Visually, I don't notice a major difference. I've stood underneath prototypes and can't tell the difference looking at them. If anyone has any really specific requests about acrylic versus glass, we're happy to chat. 99% of the time, no one really notices a difference. Okay, so the Roost series. So this is the last of our standard product. After we wrap up Roost, we're gonna hop to custom. But the Roost series is the newest addition to the standard product line, and is it a partnership with our office in Amsterdam. So our sister office is located in Amsterdam, and through our connections there, we were connected with a Dutch designer named Van Joost, who does all of the treatment of the metal work himself for these pendants. So we're really excited about this. There's Van Joost doing the treatment there. He does all the rusting and the oxidizing, the galvanizing of the metalwork. He delivers it to us. We add the lighting component. We ship it out. So it's a really lovely partnership. Size options for these vertical downlights. You have 6-inch, 12-inch, and 18 inches in length. And in terms of a finish, you can opt for a plain rusted version, or you can do the rust plus the zinc version, which is that little gray detail up at the top. And the process for treating these metal pieces is the same, but the way that it manifests itself in the metal changes piece to piece, which we really like. We think it gives it a nice organic feel, and you're not getting a cookie cutter fixture every single time. It's fitting for the Graypants line. And then eventually we will be adding an all zinc finish for the pendants as well. So that's what you see here. It's really beautiful. It almost looks like painted concrete. It's really lovely. We're really excited about these. And then down the road, we will also be adding a roost sconce as well. We had intended to launch these at Light and Build this year. That got pushed back. So we're still figuring out, you know, with all the health concerns going on, when we will officially launch these. But we are really excited to share them. For the sconce version, you will have a plain rust or the plain zinc version as your finish options. And then we will also be adding a linear LED version of the roost as well. Again, we're really excited about these. We don't have a linear LED in our line right now. We are very pendant focused at the moment, but it'll be really nice to be able to offer our take on a linear LED. Yeah, these are going to be really lovely. So this one in particular, this is 150 centimeters in length. We also have one that is 75 centimeters in length. Those will be our standard sizes. We are playing with the idea of being able to do custom lengths. And then if somebody wanted to take, let's say, 4 of these and hang them in a square, we will also be offering a little elbow joint that could connect one to the other. So you wouldn't have gaps in between if you didn't want those. And then we will also be adding a flush-mounted version of the roost as well. Okay, so that wraps up all of our standard products. So that included scrap lights, both classic and frame series, our Corona series, our Kerf light, and our roost. Typical lead time for standard product is about 6 to 8 weeks from date ordered. Thankfully, we haven't had many major interruptions to our production at this time during COVID. So we are fully operational at this point, and we're able to honor those lead times. Should anything change or happen, every day is a new day. We will absolutely keep people notified. In terms of price range for the scrap lights, at list price, you're typically starting around, I'd say, about $300, and you can go all the way up to $11,000 for that giant Arcturus in white. So you're really playing with the range there. Obviously, go through your rep. They will get you better pricing. You won't be paying list if you go through your rep, so definitely do that. Okay, so now we're going to hop into custom work. So this is kind of the other half of the Graypants coin. We've done the standard side, and now we're going to head into custom. So there are 4 main custom systems that we produce on a regular basis, the first of which is our cloud. The cloud fixture is exactly what it looks like. The main material that we use here is ping pong balls. Each ping pong ball is hand poked and then strung with a zip tie. They are then zipped onto these larger garlands that are molded around a wire mesh frame that is lit from the inside. This particular cloud hangs at the Airbnb headquarters in San Francisco. This one is about 25,000 ping pong balls. This is one of the first clouds we ever produced. What is great about Graypants is that we are small and we are flexible. So that means that every time we produce a custom fixture, it's often an opportunity for us to refine our process from the last time we produced a fixture. So this cloud that we made several years ago, the method by which we make these clouds has evolved a lot since we produced this first cloud. Alan, who's our shop manager, the cloud is kind of his brainchild. So every time we get a new cloud project, it's an opportunity for Alan to refine his process. So we get a lot of questions about, what shape do we select and what's the lighting component and how do we, blah, blah, blah. The answer is really the components and the way that we build them are changing project to project. We've gotten a lot more savvy about how we help people make decisions about their cloud should they want to go with this product. We have a dedicated cloud brochure to offer some predetermined shapes and layouts and sizes. If someone looks at that and says, great, I'll go for that, even better. If not, it serves as a jumping off point to talk more in depth about how we can create a cloud project that is tailored to them. With anything custom, it is a 3-way conversation between ourselves, our rep, and their customer. And we tend to be pretty involved because this is completely tailored project to project. This particular cloud hangs outdoors, actually. This one actually doesn't have a lighting component. This was an installation that we did for an art museum in Bellevue, which is just across the water from Seattle. And these clouds, we've now started to incorporate color changing options as well. So this is a Philips Hue bowl that Alan controls with an app on his phone. You'll notice that this version is kind of a bright, sort of punchy highlighter version. When this particular project was installed, the color was much softer on site. So just know that we have some flexibility in terms of the intensity of the color. And the color is also affected by the amount of natural light that's coming into the space. If this bright highlighter version of color is not right for you, you can always go with the soft white version as well. And also keep in mind that these are photos, so what you're getting is a snapshot. What you can't see is that the clouds were actually pulsing and changing different colors. So it wasn't just one set color they were changing, which was really nice. Very fun. I'd say out of all of our custom pieces, the cloud is definitely the most whimsical of everything that we produce. And then our Murmuration series. So this is the next in our custom series. And this is really a marriage between our custom capabilities and our sort of flagship scrap light material that we're so well known for. A murmuration is a flock of birds. This served as our inspiration for this fixture. We wanted to create something that had a feeling of texture and movement to it. So what we've done is we've taken our scrap light material and produced these small shades. They sit about 6 inches tall, and it almost looks like someone took the little shade and just gave it a squeeze. Each shade has a little bit of movement to it. And what you'll notice here is that there's a little S-bend in the curve up there, a little S-bend in the cord up there in the right-hand corner. Because that cardboard material is so lightweight, we can actually hot knife a little plastic sleeve over the base of the cord and dry it at an angle. And the material is so lightweight, it doesn't pull on the cord, which means it's maintaining that curve. So that just means that every pendant is just hanging at a slight angle, giving it, again, that extra feeling of texture and movement to it. I do want to pause briefly here to talk about canopies once again. So we talked about canopies in the context of standard product, but it was originally developed to help us streamline our custom product. So up until this point, we had been producing a custom canopy per custom project. that tends to add a lot of cost and lead time and just general fussiness on the job site. So now what we've started doing is creating these 2x4 panels that you can tile together to create larger canopies. And this allows us to do a couple of things. It allows us a little bit more control over the final product because we are pre-threading all of those pendants through their canopies in our studio here and sending them out to the job site that way. So that means that whoever's installing this isn't trying to honor the design of a product they've never met before. We're doing that work for you. So ideally what would happen is that all of those pendants would be pre-threaded through the canopy to their appropriate drop length. And then when it arrives on the job site, the canopy is unbundled, the cords release, you attach the shade and the bulb, connect it electrically, and you're good to go. We've had pretty good luck with these so far. We're really excited about the fact that it's been pretty smooth sailing, and we're excited to keep going with these. So if you have that 2x4 foot canopy, you can do you could just do the 2x4, or you could tile it and do a 4x4, or a 2x8, or a 4x16. You can use that 2x4 in a bunch of different combinations to create the canopy size of your choice. You'll notice here in this photo that this canopy does not have a lip on the side, so you're seeing a little bit of stuff up at the top. That is no longer the case. The current prototype does, excuse me, not the prototype, the current type that we are producing does have a lip on the side, so you're not going to see unistrut or any points of contact on top of that canopy with the cord sets. And in terms of murmuration, again, this is our cardboard material, so that means that we can produce these in both the natural and the white finish. We could produce them in the blonde finish should someone really want to. So this particular canopy was also an early prototype and was tailored specifically to the wants and needs of this project. They were very specific about what they wanted. So we're pushing more towards those standard canopies that we are now producing as a product that we have on hand. And then the loci series. So this is actually somewhat similar to the murmuration in the sense that we wanted to take a small pendant and put it into a high density. But the loci is really our take on fiber optics. So what you have here is a small acrylic pendant. Each is lit with its own fiber. The fibers are then threaded up through the canopy, bundled, and fed into an LED illuminator. You can get about 220 points of light out of a single LED illuminator. I'd say 90% of the loci that we make are about 200 pendants or less, which means your entire installation is running off of one driver, which keeps it really simple. We've talked about canopies. We want people to use canopies. We're all excited about them. However, occasionally we will get a request from a project that says that each pendant needs to have its own single point of access into the ceiling. We don't necessarily recommend this because it's very labor intensive for whoever is installing this on site, but it is an option. So if we're able to have access to that ceiling before it's completed and the customer is really committed to this version, it is possible. So with the acrylic itself, the acrylic material serves as the material for the pendant. We typically cut that pendant into a 2x2 cube or a 1x6 candle. Occasionally we do get a request for a custom shape with that acrylic pendant. These particular folks wanted the pendant to be cut into the shape of a triangle, and then they wanted sort of this upward spiral design to mimic a sort of modern school of fish. So this project was something we were a little skeptical of because we'd never really used a triangle. We weren't really sure how it's going to install, what it's going to look like, and it ended up being really fruitful. And now that project is one of the ones that comes back to us the most with people wanting to create something similar to it. So a good example of a customization working for everybody. So this project's called Skyview Observatory. Again, this is an example of those 1x6 candles. They wanted to play with length quite a bit with this installation, and it turned out really nicely. We were proud of that one. The loci chandelier is probably the most popular iteration of the loci. What you have here is a 6-foot metal ring, 220 pendants per ring, 1 LED illuminator per chandelier. Given the nature of this particular ceiling, we were able to tuck that LED illuminator up there without any issues. Obviously, you're not going to get a nice, beautiful, open concept ceiling every single time, so we have done flush-mounted versions of this ring version before. This loci was meant to mimic the topographic shape of the mountains that could be seen out of this conference room window. Just another really sort of fun design concept that came our way that turned out really nicely. Okay, and the last of the custom product. This is our prop panel ceiling system. One thing I do want to say about the loci before we move on. I think what we want people to understand about the loci is that this is really where art meets light for us the most. This is a decorative sculptural piece. We don't want people to have the expectation that they're going to get a ton of practical lighting out of this fixture. That's really not what this is. We want people to know that this is highly decorative and to just have the right expectations around that. Okay, so now to the props. So the prop panel is really our solution to your lighting and your acoustic needs all in one go. So what you have here, we're going to sort of break down the parts. What you have here is a 3-pronged metal propeller. It's made of perforated metal. It's about 4 feet tip to tip, about 2 feet tip to center. So the propeller itself is quite large. And you have these 3 chevrons that come together to form one propeller. And if you're looking at it from a bird's eye view down, essentially each chevron serves as a tray. And within each tray, you can drop in an LED insert or an acoustic foam insert. So you are taking care of your lighting and your acoustic needs all in one go. Oftentimes, we will see these used in sort of open concept, industrial feeling spaces. And something about the prop panel, and maybe it's the perforated metal, really helps to clean up that aesthetic and signal to people that the industrial aesthetic is there on purpose and part of the design intent. And I think something about the props just works really well by helping to communicate that design story. A nice thing about the props is that you can drop a sprinkler head through it, so that's something that's been taken into the design consideration. And you'll see here in this installation, this is a great photo because it really shows you how people have chosen to use the inserts. So with the photo on the right-hand side, you can see they sort of have a sprinkling of these LED panels through this cluster of props. So one could choose to light all 3 of those panels, or like these folks have done, they just have one panel illuminated and it's sort of sprinkled throughout the installation. The density, the layout, how you choose to overlap them, that's really open to interpretation and it's really open to budget. So with anything custom, but especially with props, the first 2 things we're always going to ask you are, okay, what are the dimensions of the space you are trying to fill and what is your budget? Because that's going to help us narrow it down the fastest. We do offer a 3D modeling tool for the prop that is also available on our website. Sometimes people come to us with an RCP where they've already plugged in the props and they will ask us for our opinion about should we move them around, how best to use them, or folks will come to us and say, here's my budget, here's my dimensions, you suggest something, and we're equipped to do that. I'd say with anything custom, we will entertain about 2, maybe 3 iterations of drawings before you get me elbowing somebody for a 50% deposit. So we understand that because this is custom, you have to know what it is you're buying. And another great thing about this project and why I love these photos is that they opted to use the props as a sort of wayfinding technique through this space. So they had this big, long hall, and they used the props to sort of signal people, the elevators are over here, follow us to the bathroom, all that stuff. Just a really lovely use of the props. And this is actually the same installation, just a different section of the hall. And they opted to drop one of the propellers and then light all 3 panels as a sort of way to signal that this was a seating area and, you know, come gather here and use this as a workspace. So just a really lovely use of the props. One of our favorite projects, definitely. And something else about the perforated metal, there's no upcharge for white versus green versus yellow versus pink. We have to powder coat the metal no matter what. So if somebody has really specific design or color choices, we just require an REL code to follow. There's no upcharge for green versus white. It has to get powder coated. This was a project we did in Boston called MathWorks. Just a really lovely use of the props. They have these propellers on all 3 levels. This is an old project, but a good one to have in our back pocket to show off. Okay, so that color covers all of our custom work. So again, with custom, your lead time is about 10 to 12 weeks from the date ordered and upon receipt of the 50% deposit. Depending on the project, we will sometimes also include a custom contract that needs to be signed. In terms of price point, with custom, you're starting at a minimum of about $8,000 to $10,000 all the time. That's kind of your starting base point. I'd say your average custom project, maybe thinking about low sire murmuration, lives somewhere between like $18,000 to $22,000. And props can really run the gamut depending on size and budget. I think the largest custom project we ever did was about $250,000, but that really feels like an outlier for us. I'd say majority of the time, our custom projects live somewhere between, let's say, $15,000 to $30,000 per project. Okay, and then the wave panels. So this really has nothing to do with lighting. This is really just a continuation of our cardboard material that we are really well known for. Cardboard has really fabulous acoustic properties, so we've started to use the cardboard as room separators, just as a way to sort of continue using that cardboard material. So on the left there, you see a series of wave panels. We installed those into 2x4 and 2x2 boxes and used it as a sort of backdrop to a desk area in a bank. And then on the right-hand side, you see those 2x10 panels. And basically what you have is just a series of all those pieces of cardboard that are stacked on top of each other and installed into the panel. And each has a slightly different pattern than the previous one. So by the time it's installed, it looks like it has this big wave pattern to it. This was a project that we did for the SeaTac Airport for Alaska Airlines. What's interesting about this project is that this is our white cardboard that we delivered to this job site that was eventually lit by somebody else. So it was sort of ironic that a lighting company was providing material that was being lit by another lighting company when it was eventually installed. So this is sort of ironic. But we actually did not do the lighting component. We just provided the wave panels for this project. And then the scrap light table lamps. This is now we're in the territory of new product. This is a really lovely add-on. We don't really have table lamps for the scrap lights right now, but we're excited to be able to start offering them. When we host factory visits, we do a little build your own scrap light workshop, and then we send you home with a base so you can actually have a table lamp that you built at your desk after you leave our factory. And then the wick. We're starting to dabble in portables as well. So this is another product that was meant to be launched at Light and Build, so its new launch date is still TBD at this point, but we are excited to be able to share a little bit that we're getting into portables. So what you have here is a small portable LED, turns on by touch, and it is rechargeable. So just a nice preview of what's coming down the road. And then we always end with the garage. This was a small architectural project that we took on about 5 or 6 years ago. Essentially what we've done here is taken a detached garage on homeowner's property and repurposed it into a sort of multifunctional tiny house. So the project itself is called The Garage. These walls slide up to create more of an open glass solarium feel. If you pull back on those floorboards and fold them backwards, there's little sleeping pods underneath. There is an outdoor shower, an outdoor toilet. The bookshelf functions as the front door by sliding on that track. And of course, it is designed with light. So a good little encapsulation of who we are as a company. We like things that are clean and functional and beautiful, and the garage is just a really lovely representation of that. Okay, so that is Graypants in a nutshell. If you have any questions about pricing, about product, about spec sheets, definitely reach out to your rep. You can reach out to me directly. My email is Hannah, HANNAH, at Graypants, GRAYPANTS.com. We do offer Revit files. That's something we're very excited to be able to offer. If you need Revit files, please just let us know, let your rep know, let me know. We're happy to send those to you. If you have any questions, again, spec sheets, lead time, just let us know. We're happy to help. The Graypants website is a really great resource as well. Recent projects, installations, if you want to browse through those, and just a good way to find us. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I think that's all I have for you.